Well, first of all, why don't you guys just introduce yourselves?
Clayton Rohner.
Ken Olandt.
Deborah Goodrich.
Can you guys hear
Fred
me?
Walton.
Wait. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Actor. Director, Fred Walton. Cinematographer. Thank you for coming. How many of you guys have seen this already?
How many have not seen it? All right. Well, let's tiptoe around the ending a little bit. Yeah. Well, Fred, maybe why don't you lead us up? Can you guys tell us about how the project kind of came together? Because I know 1986. Like, how long this has been kicking around? Because it was a little bit past the point of most of the kind of holiday-themed slasher movies. This was kind of the point of the Freddy Krueger era, where things were starting to get a little more supernatural.
If I need to use the mic, just holler and I'll do it. But the producer, Frank Mancuso Jr., who had done the Friday the 13th after the first one, and made a lot of money. He was very successful doing all those sequels. He had aspirations of doing something more, or getting out of the genre. Let's put it that way. And I think he was frankly tired of the genre. And he came across this script, which I've always thought was more of a comedy than horror. Is that fair to say? Definitely.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what's motivated him. And I had already been sort of typed as a scary film director. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to do a comedy? And also I was broke, so I took the next job that came along and sort of started my career. And then we got everybody else together. So.
Just for anyone who doesn't know, Fred did When a Stranger Calls. And the fantastic sequel to When a Stranger Calls, When a Stranger Calls Back, which someday we want to show.
Have you checked on the children?
Yeah. And I know someone out there, we don't have to answer this now, but they demanded that I ask you about the supposed When a Stranger Calls Back 3. But right now we're talking about April Fool's Day. Talking to the cast, can you guys talk anything about, I know Clayton, Deborah, you guys had actually worked before.
Yes, we have.
Clayton and Deborah had.
Actually, we were here not long ago for the reunion of Just One of the Guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
2 years ago, yeah.
Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, I got to LA and I was cast in that film. I'd driven my boyfriend to audition for something in Just One of the Guys, and I got the job, worked with Clayton. Then I got this film, and I thought I was going to do every film with Clayton.
Well, Frank and I saw these two together in Just One of the Guys, and they were so charming together. We thought, well, we gotta keep this going. So
I had no idea that happened.
did you? Kind of did.
Nobody else said that.
I certainly saw.
A chemistry.
Yes, yeah, and the charm from both of you. So, which is why we went with you and not the other people.
Yes.
That's nice.
That's very sweet.
I think one of the things that makes this movie pop, and I think why there's an affinity for it, is it has sort of an unusually good cast for an 80s slasher movie. Was that, you guys, could you get better actors because the script seemed so much fun?
I think it was the script, yeah. Isn't that fair to say?
I think the script.
I mean, you guys are great, but without a good script.
It was smart. I mean, it's a smart, funny movie. That's
And
what we
also, let it be said that the production values, I think, on this picture are, more money was spent. We got really good technical people involved, like our cinematographer, who probably, I think tonight will outshine all of us, his work.
I saw the movie in October. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It's luscious.
Which is not, normally they're made on a low budget and you have very little time, and here we had a bit more money and a bit, not that the actors got to see any of it, but, and a bit more time. It was a little more ambitious. I don't know if the print you have you run any of it? Do you know, is it the widescreen or is it, we'll find out.
Wait, Mark, you up there?
Is it anamorphic?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. And I was saying earlier, I don't know whose idea it was. Anamorphic means sort of letterbox, what you guys might consider letterbox. But when you got a picture with 9 leads, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You need more space there, sort of fit everybody into. And it takes some adjusting. It took me I had to do some adjusting because in normal 185, a close-up is sort of like this. When you're anamorphic, close-ups, you're either like this or you're like that. So it really lends itself more to 2 shots than singles.
I mean, going into this, having done a slasher movie, a little proto-slasher movie. I mean, how many slasher movies have you really seen of kind of that 80s slasher glut?
I was not a fan of scary movies. My parents didn't let me go see Psycho, for instance, when it came out. But the idea of When a Stranger Calls was told to me, and I was looking for some way to break into the business. And so I was looking for a commercial idea. And I thought to myself, well, I can make this work. I think I can make this work. And the interesting thing is, friends of mine came up to me after the picture was done and they'd seen it. And they thought they had, because it had worked, it was effective, they thought they had discovered some sadistic strain in me, like really get off on scaring people. But I can tell you that the way to successfully make a scary movie is to put yourself in the place of the victim. So in fact, you're not being the sadist, you're being the masochist. If that makes sense to you. Okay.
And did you approach this differently as far as like actually constructing shots and so forth, since you viewed this more as a comedy?
Yeah, well, for me, I really got off when we I was just attracted to the comedy, the chance to do something funny. Yeah, the scary parts are there, and I hope we pulled that off. But really, in a lot of the meetings, especially with the special effects people, it's, you know, what sort of tricks can we do? How can we make this funny? How can we do this and this and this? And then the other stuff will just take care of itself. That's sort of was my.
Can I say something here? You know, I know there was to echo that point. For example, there's a scene in the movie. Now, who here has seen the movie? Okay. In the film, there's a scene where Amy, Steele, and I are trapped, and I had to fart pretty badly. And I think it was after lunch, and we're shooting late at night. I remember telling Fred, God, I farted so bad. He goes, you should have done it. You should have used it in the scene, right? And that's the kind of thing that was going on that didn't happen until later in films now, fart stuff, right? Turns out later you put some of that stuff in the movie, right, in post?
We tried to add in some farts, and I thought they were great, and they would have been way ahead of their time.
It's just, I mean, how many fart scenes on a horror film?
Jokes in movies at the time, but the producer's wife thought it was tasteless. Wow. But I think it would have been memorable. But the interesting thing is, well, I don't consider Stranger to be a horror film as so much as a suspense film, and you find that, or I found that suspense, it really drives any sort of drama or comedy. If you get an audience, if you can build up the suspense in, for instance, there is comic suspense and then there's horror suspense, and it's a question of building up this tension in the audience and then giving them the opportunity to release the tension either with a scream or with a laugh. So.
Hey, One more thing, this is the
Suspense
one.
is just essential to storytelling, no matter what type of story you're dealing with.
That's another thing that was special for us because we were working with like a real an artist, a master in storytelling in a genre which normally for young actors we get is in a horror film. You know, it's the time the genre was the strongest genre for it to make a breakout, right? They're not going to hang a movie on a new young actor, and you know, in some cases you hope it happens, but back in that time, a horror film was the best shot you had, and most opportunities we were going to get, and it was a privilege for us to be working with someone like Fred, who was guiding us through this, setting the shots, and letting our characters be told in ways that kept it, like John Hughes would do, and give dignity to the young people, at the same time keep the comedy alive. You guys, how many here are filmmakers? This is the only genre where people make their own horror films. You don't find people who are fans of action films trying to make an action picture. It's usually the horror films and the suspense movies, right? You guys are here. So Fred was one of the best. It's something to learn from. Thank you.
Well, there are practical reasons for that. I mean, action films require a lot
Money.
of time props
And
such
money.
like that.
How did the cast work together as a group? It's a pretty big cast, with a lot of scenes, kind of a big glob hanging out.
Well, no, I'd also like to apologize for Tom Wilson not being here.
Yeah.
He really wanted to be, and we need him because he's really the comic relief for the whole crew. But he is in Texas
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing stand-up comedy. His stuff's really great, so I apologize.
And I'm sorry that the writer wasn't here. He just didn't want to stay up this late. He you know, without his characters, not that I couldn't have done anything. Chuck couldn't have done anything. These actors, wonderful actors, couldn't have done anything without the characters they've created. Even though, as is usually the case with writers in Hollywood, he got he got sort of ignored, you know, when it comes time to go into production. It's like, okay, get out of the way. We don't need you now. See you later. That's just the way it is.
But to your question, I think everybody worked really well together.
Very much.
I think everybody got along. Some of us, I mean, we're in loose touch. You know, Facebook is the miracle of the world, social media. We were not in touch, and we've kind of reconnected. So,
You guys have like a April Fool's Day private group?
we do have a little conversation group, yeah.
But it's only for the women, by the way. We're not invited, but, I mean, you get a bunch of guys and girls in their 20s, you take them to Canada, you stick them in a hotel, you spend all the motel, what's it called?
Wilted Flower.
The Wilted Flower, but every day you go to this big mansion where they shot 5 Easy Pieces, and you just have a party. That's all we did was, and we worked very hard, but it was just a lot of fun, just hanging out on this house, overlooking this big cliff at this beautiful spot in Canada.
It was.
It's like it's like summer camp.
It was. Yeah, it was hard work. It was time.
Yeah, really hard work.
Yeah, well, times it was.
No, it was hard work. Don't play down that hard work.
Was there anything particular from the shoot that you remember that stood out as you know, funny or remarkable?
Without giving away spoilers.
Yeah, without giving away.
There's this scene where we can't talk about that this thing happens.
And it was just
So
terrible.
funny.
Oh my God.
Right.
Oh. Now that I think about it, that was real.
Did it involve
There was
groundbreaking farts?
Yeah, there was.
It was-
A lot of that. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there's a scene with the snake, and
I do remember that.
we, you know, so we had a snake wrangler show up for a couple of days, and Chuck had worked with snakes before, but the rest of us hadn't. Anyway, and I wanted a scary looking, I wanted a viper, something with a fat body and a large head, but they, like all good wranglers, he came with a bunch of snakes and snake doubles and this, and if you didn't like this kind of snake, I'll have a bunch of these kinds of snakes. Anyway, he was put in a room in the same hotel with the cast, and he kept his snakes in the bathtub. when he went off to work and room service came in one day, they had to find him a room in another hotel. Do you remember that?
It's really tough to have a Q&A after, before the movie.
So he was asking, just he was
Yeah, more than
suggested,
that.
yeah.
Speaking to hard to answer questions without spoiling anything, because I know, wasn't there originally a whole other kind of act 3 to the film?
There was.
Did you guys shoot it?
We did, and I ended up, it was one of the hardest things to shoot, because I had to fall in a pond, in the dark, in the woods with spiders. And how many times did you make me do that?
Spiders
There
in the
were water spiders on the top. On the top. I'm certain.
But he had to go into the cold water of the
Yeah.
ocean with jellyfish.
Right. You can't,
Okay.
in the winter.
But that made it into the picture, right?
That made it in the movie. Yours didn't make it in the movie.
Yeah.
I
But
can
there
remember
was,
coming back
and
muddy,
everybody
pissed
asked me
off.
about that. There was a third act, a different ending
Yeah.
of the movie. A whole thing that's been cut out. Do you have that footage?
I do not.
Do you?
You shot him.
No.
No.
I think,
Does anybody in this room?
the thing is, we shot it, we cut it together and everything. And when we first showed it cut to the executives at Paramount, they were so happy with the end of the second act that they felt it ended on such a high that we never really got back there. So we said, well, let's just end the movie right here. And so, okay, this extra 20 or 25 minutes, just bye-bye. And the producer said, well, we can't, but we have to put something in there. We can't just end it. So, and I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give it away for the people who haven't seen it, but there is a little coda, sort of a tag at the end of the picture, which is in place of a 25-minute act.
There's 3 endings.
Yeah.
Good show.
We want to keep this going, so there's still a whole movie to watch. Is there let's maybe do like 2 questions from the audience, if anybody has a question. Otherwise, we might just roll into this movie. I guess I have one last question. Is there a script for When a Stranger Calls Part 3?
Yeah. You're gonna bring out the worst in me. Because, yeah, I did do A Stranger 3 in which Carol Kane, Joel Johnson gets killed. And in any event, one of the frustrating things is you're dealing with studio people and they think they know better than you do about how to make something scary or what works or what doesn't work. And bottom line is it got developed, I got paid for it, but it never got made.
Called Turn Around, right?
There's a script.
Can I see it? All right, can we give a bit of a round of applause for our guests here? Thank you so much for coming out. Thanks, guys. If you've been to Friday Night Frights before, you know that before we'll start the show, we like to count to 3 and ask you all to scream as loud as you can or are willing to do.
And you're willing to scream
Yeah.
loud. Come on,
Let's
give it up.
guys. 1,
2,
3.